Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Jeff Jarrett, great to see you.
In this business, the story behind the scenes, so much more entertaining than what you see on camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
Mr. Heyman, you are a master at the little things. That's how you turn good into great.
What does it take to achieve greatness? Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do.
That's an Emmy-winning performance.
How about it?
Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. First off, referencing World Cup, we'll get to Bruce Feldman here in just a moment. It's the final. Not the World Cup final.
Finale.
That is Spain-Argentina. And your third place game, what'd you guys say it was called? Third place final? Third place game?
Third place game.
Bronze final.
Okay. So you get a bronze
like
medal.
LeBron?
Bronze final.
With a Z?
Correct.
Love it.
Taking France or England there?
France.
And in the final this weekend, who are you taking? Spain or Argentina?
Spain.
Over the team of destiny?
They play with fire so much. They could get run out of the gym.
Give us more analysis on this, please.
I got nothing. I just feel like every time I watch Argentina, they're down in the big hole and somehow find a way to win.
Why do they get down so quickly?
I don't know if they're that good, but they're super experienced and Messi's just unstoppable. I don't know the first thing about soccer, dude. I don't know what I'm looking at.
That's why I thought for a second there you were kind of going.
No, all I know is I'm very impressed with their ability to close. They close, dude.
Okay.
I got nothing other than that.
I felt like you were about to go in on like the strategy and what was happening, how things were working.
No.
But okay.
I don't know anything about strategy. All I feel is I just watch Messi. He takes over the game.
Got it.
As the game goes along.
Bruce Feldman joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Bruce Feldman CFB. Bruce, you had a very interesting counter on Twitter yesterday to some of the news that's coming out of Texas Tech with this Ken Paxton threatening to sue the Big 12 if it sanctioned Texas Tech for fielding Brennan Sorsby. Day after, apparently Cody Campbell made a donation to his Texas senatorial bid. You referenced how this backfired, that the Paxton letter was a misstep of massive proportions. Can you explain to us why and how that helped things end up the way that it did?
Yeah, so Tom Mars, who I think you guys know is one of the leading NCAA legal voices. I mean, he's sued and been connected to a lot of big lawsuits. I had talked to him a few weeks ago about what exactly happened. Why did this whole thing with Sorsby and the Big 12 and the NCAA completely change course? And he said this law firm basically found a path because of Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, getting involved and the way he had, kind of sent this threat towards the Big 12, that he basically triggered a path for them to be able to countersue. And that, he said, basically, this whole thing that Cody Campbell did, basically, with Ken Paxton's help, blew up in their face. Without that, I'm not sure, I'm not sure the Big 12 has the flexibility. And then Sorsby's probably playing for Texas Tech because it would have didn't sound like, according to Tom Mars' legal expertise, he was like, I didn't see a path where the Big 12 was going to be able to kind of enforce their own rules.
So when you look at the whole situation, looking back at it, if Texas Tech could do it all over again, do you think they would do it just with your information and the people you've talked to?
It's a great question. I don't know. If they could do it all over again, I think maybe they try to go after Sam Levitt. The idea that if they knew knew that this quarterback had made thousands of bets, including on the team he was on at Indiana. Because I mean, for all of us, we're so used to the football world, of the sports world, of like, that's the one rail you can't touch. You cannot bet on sports like that. Obviously, it's gotten murkier with the proliferation of all these gambling apps and everything else. But Texas Tech went down this road, and it's crazy because they have a good other quarterback. I know he's coming off injury, and Will Hammond, but I think they looked at last year and were like, we spent a fortune, especially on our defensive line, and we won the Big 12. We got in the playoff, and then the one issue that they didn't upgrade was Baron Morton's a pretty good quarterback, but they got shut out. It wasn't even close when they played Oregon in the playoff. And so I think that they took a big swing, for the fences to get Sorsby, who has a lot of physical talent. And it ended up also blowing up in their face because of, something that I don't know if they could have ever seen coming, if they would have had access to that. As much vetting as teams try to do in recruiting, it's a lot harder to do it with the portal because these deals are done so fast. So, I mean, it's interesting to think about what hindsight would have been for them. I mean, again, they're still probably the team to beat, I would say, coming out of the Big 12, even without them, though.
Bruce, we were talking about villains, heels in college football, and just how quickly Texas Tech has taken the seat in that throne. Felt like it was going to be Lane Kiffin most of this year. That's kind of gone away. But how will this affect them this year? We referenced it yesterday, Bruce. Name another team that has made fans like the NCAA more. Texas Tech did that this offseason. It's insane to think about. And I just don't think that they can get through a year, even though a lot of the Sorsby stuff will be over, that these distractions and this distraction and all these complications have nothing to do with their performance.
Yeah, like you're right, and that's the way to frame it. I mean, look, Cody Campbell, in addition to this story here, where it looks like he's bribing, with basically the Texas Attorney General to get something. That's the optics of it. But I think it's everything. We all watch college football every Saturday. You would see like these what felt like political ads with him appearing on TV, and every blue blood program has some big money boosters, but they're not as prominent as he became and has become, where he's kind of this, he's just out there all over the place. And I think that is added to the villain part. Now, I think what's going to be key here, and I was at Big 12 Media Days in Texas last week, was some of the players they had at Texas Tech were talking about leaning into being the villain. And embracing it, because what are you going to do about it when you have this really bright spotlight? Because for years, about the only thing Texas Tech really was known for football-wise was it was like when Mike Leach was there. Otherwise it's not anything like the has the history like either the alma maters you guys had. But I think what happens when you have that, like the University of Miami for a long time, especially when it came to prominence, was that villain, and they leaned into it. They really did. And I think we've seen some other times where people lean into having the target on their back. I mean, Greg, I think you played in one of the all-time games where when Cam Newton came to Auburn, came to Alabama, and that was an amazing, energy in that building that day. But I think that was somebody who definitely embraced having being in the crosshairs of people and getting all the venom and everything about it. And I don't know how well Texas Tech is gonna deal with that. They're still the most talented team in the conference, but then once it gets bigger than that, it's different. But like you said, Lane, I think, is comfortable in that role. I feel like he's grown up in that role to some. I've always heard stories about Lane the Pain, and this is he's always kind of been okay with kind of stepping on people's toes and maybe rubbing people the wrong way. And I feel like there are certain guys who are comfortable in that. We'll see if Texas Tech is going to be, because it's one thing for the for the big money booster to be that guy. It's another thing for the players to figure out how that works, because most of us wouldn't know about unless they came to this, are on this team right now.
Yeah, there's 100% truth in that. You actually have some interesting information on Bryant Kelly. And you recently did something with Stuart Mandel about his relationship with Notre Dame and what his next moves might be. What have y'all gathered so far on Brian Kelly and his next steps?
Well, obviously, it imploded at LSU, and now at 65, where does he still wants to coach? What are his options going to be? We talked a lot about this on the Audible yesterday about where do they go from here? Who's going to want him, right? One of the jobs that, we thought would have been possible was he's got like a lake house up in Michigan. Would Michigan State have been a good possibility for him coming out of Jonathan Smith? Well, obviously they ended up hiring Pat Fitzgerald. I mean, looking at this, as the landscape of next year, I don't know. He's a Boston guy. If Bill O'Brien has another really bad year, I don't think they would make a change. But that, I would think that would be a job he'd probably be interested in. His old school, Cincinnati, another place like Notre Dame, where there's a lot of, he left on bad terms. Scott Satterfield struggles. Is that a job that might be a fit? He obviously was a really good coach at Notre Dame. He certainly left it better than he found it. It didn't go well at LSU. That was clearly a really bad fit. He's going to be around on TV. He did this big interview with the Independent podcast earlier in the week, stirred up some Notre Dame fans of, who are not happy to see him wanting to be around the program again. But he will be it won't be like Urban Meyer when he was out, where is he going to coach, next? But I do think because he won so much and, he's a really polarizing figure, what he does, coming out of this year, especially if he's in TV and people are seeing him every weekend, I think that will be kind of an interesting little subplot because of him having to take the year off from coaching.
Bruce Feldman joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. How do you view the field this year as we are right in the middle of all the media day craziness right now? And we'll find out a little bit more about some of these teams this week, next week. But when you look at playoff, specifically national championship, potential winners, bigger field, smaller field in your mind, how do you sort of view it all heading into this year as we sit here today, 43 days away from kickoff?
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's a much bigger field. I don't feel like there's a prohibitive favorite. You've got an Ohio State team that has its quarterback back and the best receiver and probably player in college football, but they got to replace a bunch of first-round picks on defense. You have Indiana, who won the national title, got to plug in a new quarterback. We'll see how that goes. They lost a bunch of good players. The teams, we were encouraged by probably the way Texas finished last year. I think Arch now has a team that maybe was a year away last year. We see that they were pretty young, and add Cam Coleman, add some good running backs, got more experience. They should be a lot better. Oregon brings back a lot of guys. They should be really good. Notre Dame should be really good. I just think that it's great when you have such a level of who is it going to be this year. And I feel like there's probably 5 teams right now I would say, I can make a good case for them that this will be the year. And I feel like there's as many as probably 12 to 15 teams that it wouldn't shock me if they were in the national title game and won it. I mean, because I just feel like right now it doesn't feel like what it felt like in 2017, 2018, 2019, where it felt like there was really only 3 or 4 teams that had a realistic chance of winning the national title because of the portal, because of NIL. It's way more spread out. Just the fact that, Indiana just won a national title and won 16-0 no less. It's such it's different. But I think this time of year, it just makes it that much more compelling.
It certainly does. And when you look at a team like Indiana, has it kind of changed the way rosters are created? It does seem to me Indiana with a bunch of blue-collar guys, chip-on-the-shoulder guys, it should change the way we evaluate recruiting, should change the way we look at roster retention, roster creation, but it I'm not sure it has. So how has Indiana's championship altered the perception of how a team should be built?
I think it talks more about team building than roster building, right? Because the teams can change from year to year. I think it does put a premium on experience and, what you have in terms of like, hey, these were really good players that may have been at one point at the group of 6 level, and then they got in the Big Ten, and they obviously have really good evaluation and coaching. And I think Signetti, it's one of the few schools that doesn't really have a GM right now. He's the GM, and I think he knows what he wants, and he's got a really good eye for talent, and they obviously have good coordinators and good coaches. But I think, is that capturing lightning in a bottle? Can other people follow that formula? I know people are trying. If you look at Oklahoma State, Eric Morris goes from North Texas, did a terrific job, brought a bunch of really good players who kind of fell through the cracks in the recruiting world to get to North Texas. You look at Bob Chesney's taken some of those JMU guys out here to LA to UCLA to help him create a culture. I think those are the things that, like, it gives teams that maybe aren't the teams that were Ohio State or Alabama or LSU the chance to be like, all right, maybe these kids weren't 5 stars in high school. That doesn't mean that, what you're thought of being the best when you're 17 doesn't mean you're the best when you're 21. And, I think there's a lot of stuff we miss, we as college football people, when it comes to the evaluation, where that, just because they may have looked like they were the most potentially impressive athletes, doesn't mean they're always going to be the best players, especially when they get into a really good system.
Bruce, great stuff, man. Thanks for the time today. Love catching up with you. Great insight as well. Look forward to doing this again soon.
Always a pleasure, guys. Great talking college football with you.
There you go. Bruce Feldman joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You can find him on Twitter. You can find him at The Athletic as well as Fox Sports. Great stuff there from Bruce. We've added a guest to a little bit later in the show. Final segment of the day today, we will give you a better preview of the bronze final and the final later on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Jocks 94.5 is live on YouTube every weekday, plus video shorts and podcasts. Find us at Jocks 94.5 and smash the subscribe and like button so you never miss a moment. Jocks 94.5 on YouTube.
Scrolling with Haley. Join Haley Caronia as she scrolls through the biggest headlines.
If you haven't watched this show before, we do blind reactions. I have not seen these videos, so I am seeing them for the first time with all of you. We're going to implement the tinfoil hat time segments and all the stuff you know and love. And I'm going to finish the show and answer some of your questions. Someone asked me what made you get into podcasting, and I was producing podcasts for other people. And I was like, I could do this for myself, and here I am.
Scrolling with Haley. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Jeff Jarrett, great to see you.
In this business, the story behind the scenes, so much more entertaining than what you see on camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
Mr. Heyman, you are a master at the little things. That's how you turn good into great.
What does it take to achieve greatness? Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do.
That's an Emmy-winning performance.
How about it?
Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.